前一亮，而正因为 YG 的爆发，老干爹战队现在也可能会面临可能会掉旗的危险了。可以说，联赛打到现在，我们的局势也是越来越紧张了。最后的3周，到底最后的结果怎么样呢？我们把谜底交给所有的选手了。那么接下来一起来关注一下今天有哪些好看的比赛吧。好，首先16点到18点由皇族对阵 WEA。 那么19点到21点呢是由
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the LPL broadcast here in English on Twitch TV. My name is Rapid, and I'll be joined by our special guest tonight, LPL analyst Karen Moser. Now, we're going to be hopping into our first series of the night here. Coming up in just a minute, it's going to be World Elite Academy. They'll be taking on StarHorn Royal Club. So, take us into that match. What are we expecting to see from these two teams tonight, Karen?
Thanks, Rapid. So, first of all, World Elite Academy and StarHorn Royal Club have both had very interesting ups and downs recently. It seems like they're two teams that have very similar problems. They have very aggressive laning phases, but when they get leads, they sometimes struggle to close out games. We saw World Elite abuse this against StarHorn Royal Club last week to get their only win out of 6 games when they used a hyperscaling comp with Jax, AP Kog'Maw, and Tristana to close out against StarHorn Royal Club when they had a lead.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, only win of the week. Speaking of other teams who only had, I think it was 1 win last week. World Elite Academy are playing here for probably the chance to have a better week than their main team. I don't know. It's not that hard to eclipse a team that had a week like World Elite did last week. So it's been a rough week for the top few teams in LPL. And if I hate to use the phrase "if Young Glory can do it, then anyone can," but might be the week for World Elite to try to climb their way back up the standings as well.
Yeah, and it's physically impossible for any team to do as bad as World Elite for the rest of the split, unfortunately, since this was the only time where a team played 3 sets, and they lost 5 of the games, so that's a little rough.
The struggle, and it's probably just going to continue because with those, as losing as many games as they did, if we can switch over here to the standings really quickly, you can see that World Elite actually, they didn't go negative at 80 points, but they stalled out at 12 points, lost their second place spot to EDG, and that means that with World Elite only at 12 points, StarHorn, if they win this series 2-0, will eclipse World Elite in the top 3 teams of LPL, which is probably not a place very many members thought StarHorn would be, especially with the season World Elite was having. Like, they were 75% win ratio like 3 weeks ago, and now they are, not after last week.
I think those standings might actually be outdated because right now World Elite has 17
points. That is true. Let me make sure that these are actually updated really quickly. And there we go. Should actually be updated right now. So the same thing is still true. If StarHorn wins right now, they'll go from 15 to 18 points and will steal that 3rd place spot away from World Elite.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. Also, Edward Gaming is tied at 17 points, so that's a 2nd place over World Elite and Edward Gaming. 2 teams that had very rough weeks. Like we talked about, World Elite had a rough week. Edward Gaming had 2 sets, and they only won 1 game as well. So they won 1 of 4 games. And both teams gave Young Glory their first 2-0 victories. So that was pretty significant.
Exactly. Yeah, as great as it is to talk about, the top teams losing, this is made possible in part by viewers like you and by Young Glory, a team that went from 3 points to 9 points over 2 best-of-2 series versus the best teams in LPL. Now, they'd split 1-1 versus OMG the week before, so I'm just going to include that in their stats just to make them look a little bit better. But it's pretty incredible to watch Young Glory rise up and the top teams start to falter here, and that brings a lot of questions coming in here to the end of the season. I think there's only 1 more week after this, and it's only 4 series, so We're coming into the final stretch, and there is not a lot of time left to make up these points. Young Glory, they're kicking it into high gear, but our second series of the evening is actually going to be OMG versus LGD, kind of the top versus the middle of the pack. Is there anything that you think LGD, anything about LGD that might mean that they can overtake OMG, who are currently leading in the standings?
Well, OMG looked really amazing last week. Yeah, they did face World Elite, but they sort of sent World Elite on their downward spiral there. They had really, really smart strategical play. Drug made a point of going top lane and ganking the teleport, which is something that we don't often see a lot of in LPL. It seems like a straightforward strategy and a no-brainer to gank the teleport so he can't interrupt your other ganks, but this is something that OMG has started to do. In addition, they abused World Elite's dependency on Baron in the late game. World Elite tends to go for those Barons instead of closing out games. Not that World Elite was ahead by any means, but they went and...
Alright, it fortunately appears as if the wonderful Kelsey Moser is no longer with me, or maybe just things cut out there for a second. But, are you back?
Yeah, so as
Sweet.
I was saying, OMG was able to abuse World Elite's Baron dependency, and instead of going for the Baron and engaging that fight, they wrapped around to move and push for the win and caught World Elite out and to end the game, which it's hard to imagine, but this was were no Barons taken the entire OMG versus World Elite set, and that never happens in LPL.
Exactly, yeah. Baron is sort of like the fourth inhibitor. You gotta take it down before you end the game. Showing us some stats up there for the kill rankings. The only StarHorn player on the kill rankings is just so happens to be in first place. UZI up there at the top of the standings. Now we actually have death rankings up there, and something tells me, yeah, there's two members of SHRC on there. So you can see Korn way up there in second place with 41. So definitely getting his contribution in, but not quite in the category he was looking for.
Yeah, Korn actually has died very infrequently compared to the other members of, and that's actually the least deaths ranking.
Right,
so
it's backwards.
Right. So he's died very little compared to the rest of the team, and I think that's indicative of the way StarHorn Royal Club plays. A lot, UZI and Insect tend to be very over-aggressive, tend to go in very hard, and Korn kind of stays back and is almost cautious, afraid to overcommit to some of these engagements, and they rely on Zero to reset some of these engagements and win fights for them.
And you can see Zero there at rank number 3 in the assists ranking. And when you look at the MVP points total, well, UZI and Zero are both on there. So a big strength for StarHorn, their duo lane. Big highlight to the team. Some other somewhat lowlights to the team coming in here have been Insect's performance. He started to be a little bit hit or miss. He came in and he smashed people with Rengar. His Rengar looked incredible, but then he kind of lost it. His Rengar, Lee Sin, both of them not quite what they once were. And I think this is a little bit of a recap of our last game that we saw, WEA versus StarHorn. I believe they did split 1-1 in that series, right?
Yeah, and that last game, as we mentioned earlier, was really close. StarHorn Royal Club came ahead very early, but World Elite ended up pulling it back in part due to the high scaling potential of Ninja's Kog'Maw. He played very well, positioned very well that game. I've been a bit critical of him in the past, but both him and I think UZI really stepped up last week. UZI has been a bit overzealous, but I think his patience paid off a little bit in that set against World Elite when we saw him.
Yeah, overzealous is a polite way of saying, and I think this is true for a lot of Chinese AD carries. They see something, and sometimes they just get that look in their eye, and they just go for it. Whether it's like stealthing in on Twitch right in the middle of the enemy team, or flashing in desperate to get kills, like I think Wei Zhao had that problem in game 1 of that series the other day. So Overzealous is a big word, but like you say, seeing signs of patience is a very good thing for UZI, and should be good enough to get StarHorn over their matchup tonight versus World Elite Academy, because World Elite Academy still do have a lot of issues, and they've had them for the majority of the season. If they don't win lane, they have trouble struggling to close out the games, and you can see that reflected in the predictions here tonight. You have 2 0-2s in favor of StarHorn, but Joker's always going to give it the 1-1. He actually does that a lot. Do you think there's any credence in his 1-1 prediction?
Well, I think that World Elite Academy was a bit surprising last week when they went 1-1 against LGD Gaming. LGD Gaming hasn't been doing so well as of late. They've been struggling to find their identity with a brand new roster. They came out of the great gate this split the same way as last split, swinging, but World Elite Academy was able to capitalize and take a win off that. If StarHorn Royal Club shows any similar indecisions or they don't get a hold on the early game, we could see a 1-1 split. Still, I think that I'm more inclined to go with the 2-0 on the StarHorn Royal Club's side, given how they played last week.
And I would agree with that. You can see their record right there on your screen. A string of defeats until finally they took a game off of LGD, which doesn't speak well for LGD going into their series against OMG next for our second best of 2. But yeah, 16.7, not where you want to see that. We're going to go over their lineup. You can see them starting there right now on your screen. It's Khan, new import to the team, but hasn't really found his place up there in the top lane. I feel like he hasn't gotten a chance to play Gragas, which is sort of like the big comfort pick. And we have seen his Aurelia split 1-1 for Aurelia games, but still kind of struggling, not only as a team, but as a top lane.
Yeah, and his Aurelia has been strong. I'm wondering if he can play the Gragas since he hasn't really been touching it. Soist is an interesting case. He was kind of... I feel like his style is very similar to Insects. He's from the Challenger scene, and he was hyped as maybe one of the better junglers in China who wasn't in LPL before they joined LPL. Since then, he's been a little bit hit or miss, struggling to find an impact.
Well, he's also been mid lane previous to Mickey switching into that role, right?
No, that was Xie who found the bench.
Okay, so they switched in, and so Mickey coming in as well as Khan, you know, the new additions to World Elite. I don't know about you, like Mickey seems to like, it's like there's a loose connection in the wiring on his light bulb. Sometimes he just like ridiculously outplays people on high mechanically skill capped champions, and then sometimes he's just left pretty wanting. But one guy that you could always look to for a little bit of consistency is SMLZ. Like, this guy is the real deal. He's been impressive even when the rest of his team may be a little bit lackluster.
Yeah, and I think that his matchup with UZI should be pretty interesting. He's sort of been propped up as the next generation of AD carries to follow this one. UJ, of course, is a very interesting character as well. I think part of what made World Elite Academy so strong in the LPL scene when they were able to 2-0 almost any team they faced, which recently, if you watch the Demacia Cup, they went 2-1 against the 15th place LSPL team. So that was an interesting change of pace. Was Ari, their previous captain and support player, was very strong strategically and also a very strong support player who was able to easily feed SMLZ in the bottom lane. UJ is kind of an old guard player. Used to play on a team called 80 Fox with Z-Tai from Invictus Gaming, actually. But that was several years ago, so he's kind of rusty coming back into his position. But here we are with StarHorn Royal Club, which we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, just a slightly higher percentage of win rate. Although they have had some struggles recently, maybe been showing some signs of life, and it's mostly when they succeed because of their bottom lane. I feel like a lot of that involves just 4 people desperately trying to keep UZI from killing himself a lot, but Zero's been doing a great job of that, and that is why he is currently 3rd place in assists. You can hear the applause for UZI. One of the biggest names in AD carries in China.
And UZI is very well known, and there's a big reason for that. He performs pretty well when he's on his game. He does have the issue. I like to joke that he's famous because he puts himself into situations that he shouldn't be in, but still manages to get out just because of how mechanically talented he is. So that's something to note.
Yeah, kind of has double lift syndrome in that respect. It's just like, let me do whatever I want, and I'm just going to get out because I'm basically a god at the game. So coming into Corn did bust out the Fizz in what was a somewhat painful game to watch. He was like, let me just farm things out in lane versus the hyper carry, and didn't really have a big presence on that. So, like you said, he plays a little bit more of a passive play style, which is why he doesn't necessarily feed all that much, but sometimes that is at the expense of doing as much as his lane opponent.
Right, and Insec has sort of been the playmaker of the team. The team lives or dies on pretty much whether or not he gives first blood on an ill-advised invade, I would say. If he gets that risky big advantage, then StarHorn Royal Club will do well. If not, then they tend to fall behind and they have trouble coming back.
And there you can see Cola on your screen. And while we didn't see a whole lot of Gragas from Khan, more of an Aurelia and a Renekton player, kind of the old guard of top laners, it's been all about the Gragas for Cola. So he's going to be pulling that one out. Also, the Shyvana you saw on there, likely, but that's really as a last resort after seeing Gragas bans come his way. So that's going to do it for team introductions. Should be getting in here to picks and bans for our first best of 2 of the night. StarHorn Royal Club will take on World Elite Academy. A little bit of a struggle, an uphill battle for World Elite Academy, just because StarHorn does have a lot of just proven consistency, but that has been relatively inconsistent in the more recent days. However, if World Elite Academy can split versus StarHorn and achieve the same score that at least their sister team did, that'll be one big step on the road towards climbing up. And here we hop into champion picks and bans. So expected bans, I would say Gragas, just because that's been such a comfort pick for Cola, and maybe shoring up Khan with less of a strong pick top lane might work. But what are you expecting to see from bans here, Kelsey?
Yeah, and another thing, Cola is a really big Jax player, and I believe we are on 4.11 at this point. So that is a nerf to his champion pool. We've seen him mostly play Gragas, Shyvana, and Jax. So if we do see that Gragas ban, it's going to hurt a little bit more than it would. We do see the Kassadin ban, very standard for purple side, especially against Mickey God, who's been excelling with those assassin-type champions. And Rengar comes out against StarHorn Royal Club. Like we mentioned earlier, Insec has been a little bit hit or miss on Rengar, but it's still probably an intelligent ban against him if you don't want to deal with his abuse of a lack of vision.
All right, minor production issue should be rectified at the current moment, so you should be seeing it on your screen right now. But yeah, as far as bans are concerned, the mid lane getting a lot of focus here. 4 out of the 6 bans coming that way, with the one exception of course, Insect's Rengar. Last ban could be a Lee Sin if you want to go for that and just really hit Insect and Soas kind of simultaneously. But then you default to something like Jarvan or similar champions, so not a big value in that. So let's see. You said big assassin champions for Mickey are a possibility. So things like maybe a Yasuo. What are you expecting to see from Mickey now that his Zed's been banned away?
Yeah, I was going to say Zed has been banned. So most of what we've seen him play have been that Lulu Ahri Zed, so it'll be interesting to see what he comes out with. And we do see the Gragas first pick intelligently away from Cola. He thought about the Jax. They're going to go ahead. We did see Jax played a little bit in Demacia Cup since the 4.11 rollout. By the way, just to clarify, the Ahri nerf, we aren't on 4.12 yet. There are no Ahri buffs. People are just playing Assassins in LPL because it really suits their playstyle of the high mobility, high risk reward, wanting to get at those 80 carries and destroy them because so much gold is put on the 80 carries.
It's true, and not just the gold that's put on the 80 carries. 80 carries really have like a defining central role. You hear about China maybe for some of their mid laners like Messiah back in the day, but nowadays it's just big 80 carry names, and especially here tonight, like you said, it should actually be a relatively decent matchup between UZI and SMLZ. So Mickey's had 3 assassins taken away from him. What does he go for? It's hovering over the Yasuo. But Xerath is actually still enabled on this this patch. I don't think LPL really restricts that many champions, so you can still go for Xerath if he wants it to. But picks up a Braum for UJ.
Yeah, and World Elite has been playing a lot of Xerath compositions, and since they have the same coach, World Elite Academy has the same coach Hero, it wouldn't be surprising to see them try to experiment with that going forward. We do see Jax actually being selected for StarHorn Royal Club, so they're just going to go for it. And we have Tristana and Yasuo being hovered over, so they might be going for that last, assassin that's up right there, and the late game scaling Tristana for SMLC.
Yeah, a couple of things to talk about. One is that, yeah, sure, you have a lot of hyperscaling from Yasuo Tristana, but this is, like you said, 4.11, so this is when Lucian just recently got his CDR buff to Relentless Pursuit. It still cleanses slows, it has a lower cooldown, so this is an incredibly strong Lucian.
I actually thought that wasn't until 4.12.
Wasn't 4.12 the patch where he they nerfed it just a little bit? I'm pretty sure this is the very strong. Wait, no, okay, no, you're right. I'm just thinking of patch behind because we just switched to 4.13. So this is the nerfed Lucian, but it's in a lane with Thresh. So how do you feel about that, like Thresh Braum? I feel like Braum is not really that guy you really want to pull in. So if we do see the 2v2, players aside, which team do you expect that to go to?
Well, yeah, I do think 2v2 might be likely. StarHorn Royal Club has been known in the past to kind of look for those 2v2s anyway, especially since their bottom lane is so strong. And the patch 4.11 definitely favors the 2v2s. I would say that considering Tristana's weaker mid-game and Lucian's definite early game and mid-game power spike with the Thresh, definitely something, Braum aside, that's something that I can see going in their favor, especially, but Tristana will be with that rocket jump going forward. So there is some safety in place with Braum and Tristana. It's going to be a very safe lane. With some smart warding, it'll still be hard to get some kills off. So if UZI and Zero want to take an advantage, they're going to have to pressure pretty hard, probably see if they can get some pink wards on the lane and call Insect down.
Although with a hyper carry like Tristana, you could see a lane swap like teams will do a lot of times with Kog'Maw, where you just sit the hyper carry in a lane and let him do his thing for the first 5-10 minutes of the game, just like you said, to put as much gold on those 80 carries as possible. So we'll have to see how the lane swaps work out as we hop into game number 1 of our first best of 2 of the night, World Elite Academy, taking on StarHorn Royal Club. And we see the Corn busting out the Fizz here again. So last time it was a little bit of a lackluster, more of a passive Fizz than that big beefy assassin, but he's facing off against Mickey God. So I like seeing Mickey on assassins. He does very well with them traditionally. Windwall versus the fish is going to make a lot of people pretty sad. Most importantly, Corn, if he does get his fish blocked. But I believe the fish still falls on the ground, even if it is blocked by Windwall. So it's still going to be at least something out there on the map. And so is an Insect having a little bit of a dance-off to start things out.
And in general, I think Fizz does fairly well against Yasuo, given his ability. A lot of his abilities are bypass the wind wall with the dive in.
Melee.
So it should be a pretty decent matchup, especially early on for Fizz.
So as far as lane matchups are concerned, right now they're traditional, solo top and mid with the duo bottom. But we could definitely see that switch up, although UJ is going very deep for the ward. Actually putting it over the wall, so just there to scout out the buffs and find out exactly where Insect's starting. But it shouldn't be a big mystery that Insect is starting at red. So he will actually reveal himself over a ward as he goes toward the top Tri-Brush, and we could actually see a swap around of the lanes. No, they're just going to go for standard lanes as minions start to spawn.
Yeah, and very smart early warding by StarHorn Royal Club. They got most of the entrances to their jungle, and it looks like they're pinging to maybe put a ward down in that last entrance. In the past, StarHorn Royal Club has been a little bit risky with their early map movements, so it's and it's cost them some games. So it's refreshing to see them being more protective, being safer, especially against stronger, earlier composition in general. So.
All right, so at least for the early part of the game, it should be just that one-on-one matchup top lane. This is actually interesting for Khan because we've primarily seen him play pretty much every top lane with the exception of Gragas, at least in his last 2 series. So he's bringing out Gragas more as less of a comfort pick just because of how strong we've seen his Aurelia to be, but more of just, hey, it's a great champion. And this is pre-nerf Gragas, so he still has a manaless W, so a lot of sustain for free up there. But Cola's got the scaling, and that is going to be really, really scary to deal with, even though you do see the hyper carry from World Elite, just not in the top lane.
And it looks like both of the junglers started top, so they probably are going to be trying to focus that bottom lane early, as we discussed before. Never mind, it looks like Soest is just going to go back and continue to farm as I say that.
It's the caster's curse. You're going to learn about this now in the hot seat, and as soon as you predict something, the opposite is going to happen. So as far as Soest is concerned, just taking it easy in the jungle while Insec makes his way down bottom lane. He was not scouted coming into the brush, but it is warded out, so a little bit of an anticlimactic trip, and that will actually give Soest the lead because he was farming during that time that Insec went bottom for a gank.
Yeah, and that's what we mentioned, that it'll be a very safe lane as long as they have some wards against Insect's pressure, and it looks like they're playing intelligently. So it's going top.
Yeah, he is going to get the knockup. There is the double counter strike. Cola still flashes out. That's maybe a little unnecessary, but he does stay alive, and that's the big thing to note there. So us doing the extra camp might have also thrown off his gank timing, because usually that's around the 3 minute to 3 minute 30-second mark. So maybe just expecting that a little bit earlier on. But he actually TPs back top lane, so takes that pressure off the map, and Insect going in for a much more successful gank this time around. Coming in behind SMLZ and UJ, doesn't have a Dragon's Rage yet, he's only level 3, but UJ is pretty dead right now, and good guy Insect lets UZI take the kill.
Yeah, so that's, as we said, something they're going to need. A little bit engaged in the middle between Mickey and Korn, but mostly just farming it out. But with that kill on the bottom lane, it looks like UCI is in a good position to sort of rush the game, get the lead that StarHorn Royal Club needs, something that will set them in good stead.
Oh, perfect wind wall from Mickey. It stops the Sonic Wave right in its tracks and makes Insect a sad boy. So Insect goes back to the jungle, but he actually doesn't have that much jungle to go back to. Soest took Wraiths and double golems from Insect and didn't clear out the camps. So Insect is not going to have those camps at all. He's going back in for the regank. Mickey, there's a teleport in mid lane as well, but I'm not sure Mickey can stay alive long enough for it to complete. He does, gets the knockup, and Insect is actually going to get in there and barely get out. The Ignite's ticking down. Insect stays alive. Incredible survival there, and it is the death of Mickey God's second kill of the game for StarHorn.
Yeah, and so we're seeing that the strategy that World Elite Academy's Soest is using is very smart if Insect doesn't have these successful ganks. He's counter jungling, he's trying to punish Insect for these gank attempts, but as long as Insect keeps getting this assist gold and keeps getting his laners ahead with really smart play like that, in that particular instance, Insect played very well. He went in after the Sonic Wave very correctly. He managed to get out. He saved his safeguard until the very end. Sometimes we see Lee Sin's overzealously use it. So Insect showing off why he is one of the trademark Lee Sins of the world.
And even though it's been a little hit or miss so far this season, you can't deny the history and the skill that he has on that champion. Already 100% for kill participation. And now finally he'll get a chance to go through his jungle and clear it out. But it's like you said before, Kelsey, Insect goes for these big sort of high-risk plays. If both of those ganks had failed, he'd actually be way behind Soest right now and wouldn't be able to come back from that because half his jungle was gone. But he has been very successful so far. So even though he has half of Soest's CS, he does have those 2 assists.
Yeah, and absolutely, as we said, it's very high-risk, high-reward play style that he tends to go for. And right now it's paying off. We've seen games where it definitely hasn't. So...
So at the 7-minute mark, because there was a duo lane bottom, we haven't seen an early dragon like you'd expect from the 2v1 or 2v0 lane swaps. So shouldn't see that be done quite this early on. And really without jungle pressure going down too much at the time being, it's just trading in lanes and setting up for what I would imagine would be a much later dragon. So it's actually taking this the blue buff. So as a Jarvan, when your mid laner has energy, you're gonna get a lot of blues, and that will help his clear pretty substantially. But with pings on up to the top lane, you can see Insec heading his way back up there. Will get spotted out by a ward, so somewhat anticlimactic.
And we do see in the mid lane, Fizz does have that sheen, that power spike, so we could see him try to make plays, but right now it looks like the top lane engagement, not much is going to happen, and Insec is just going to back out.
Explosive cask, though, perfect counter play by Khan. Catches Cola out of position. Insec is nowhere to help him. Wait, the flash dunk in from Soas. Insec is going to take the damage, gets knocked up and taken down. Soas. It went Soas hard for that one and made it happen. Nice follow-up from Khan as well, who set up that first kill and finished off the second.
Yeah, I think maybe there was a little bit of telegraphing there from StarHorn Royal Club, Skola, and Insec, I believe, also did cross over a ward on the way to that brush there. And so that gave time for Soas to react and to head up for the counter gank. When Insec went in for the engagement and was about to back off, Soas timed that entrance into the lane very well, got 1 kill, 2 kills, I believe, and pretty much just reset the entire score of the game right there. So really smart patience there by Soas. Now has a very definite advantage over Insec.
And Insec came out of the early game like very far ahead. He's been helping out the rest of his team, getting his lanes ahead, and so it's just turned that right back around. However, the kills are in very, very different places. They're mid and bottom kills on both carries for StarHorn, whereas it's jungle and top lane for World Elite Academy, which may be somewhat less impactful roles. Although with the explosive cast from Khan, you can see, just illustrating from that gank, how much of a big turnaround that can be. And you've also got a lot of knockback from Buster Shot on SMLZ too. So there's a lot of reposition skills for World Elite Academy, both of which are going to be very good in both an offensive and defensive role when it comes down to Dragon Fight, which should actually be in a few minutes. Just looking to get an advantage mid or bottom before the teams will rotate for that objective.
Right, and we do see a lot of these repositioning knock-up roles when we have a Yasuo in the mid lane. So we have pretty much every single champion has the ability to set up last breath for Yasuo, for Mickey God there.
Yeah, especially Jarvan. We've seen Soas really, really good at getting multiple knockups, so it's going to be exciting once Teamfight starts because there's going to be a lot of CC and damage from StarHorn, or from World Elite Academy. I think the skill in outplaying that comes from being very mobile on Korn's Fizz to not get knocked up from all of that. And you can really see a very mobile team comp from StarHorn Royal Club. You've got Leap Strike, a Safeguard, Playful Trickster, Relentless Pursuit, and well, Zero kind of gets left behind. He's just the support, not very mobile at all. But he does have things like Flay to stop engages. You can Flay Jarvan out of his engage, for instance. So some counterplay there as well.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good reason to pick Jarvan. The fact his Cataclysm is going to burn a lot of those repositioning abilities, which will make it very easy for some of the backup knockups to catch people out. And give Mickey the opportunity to engage. So I expect that will be how they use that Cataclysm going forward.
So like I said, should see pressure around the mid or bottom lanes, because if you kill or force the mid lane or bottom back to base, it's a pretty free dragon, at least at this stage. But haven't really seen too much aggression from either side. just opting to kind of farm things out. And it does appear as if off of that gank, Khan has set himself far enough ahead that he'll force Cola back to base, and Cola, without a teleport available, will lose a wave to his turret, and that will allow Khan to TP. Where is he going? Coming down to the bottom lane. Khan's there. The Lantern's going to get UZI out of there. Knockup does land from the Glacial Fissure onto Zero, but he will flash over the wall. Word to follow him out there. And oh man, we've got to jump all the way in. SMLZ takes out Zero. Has the reset on his jump if he wants to go back in for UZI, but knows that Insect's coming up behind, and so doesn't want to overcommit that badly. Nice kill picked up there from World Elite Academy off the teleport from Khan, which he had up, whereas Cola's teleport was still down, so he knew he couldn't follow.
Right, and it looks like they're just gonna... They backed off very intelligently there. A lot of times we see teams overcommit to engagements. This seems like a very different...
Playing pinball with Mickey God in the mid lane. A nice knockup and a flash out. Keeps Mickey alive. Oh, Insect, do you go for it? He's got the red buff too, but doesn't want to get baited out by any sort of flow. So he is back and back out. It was really weird to watch Mickey dash back out through his wind wall and get kicked right back in. But overall, staying alive. Some nice reaction there by Mickey.
And it's very... Like I mentioned before, it seems like a different World Elite Academy team. They're able to ward up, they're able to not overextend. They saw Corn coming down. But then at the bottom, StarHorn World Club, they had a very good reaction. They saw that someone was lost, and they tried to turn around mid. Mickey was able to get out.
A little bit of a DC there, so... Apologies for that, but as far as the way that the game is shaping up, especially with the pressure there on the mid lane, it's been working out. And to be honest, with SMLZ picking up that kill, it'll snowball him to his static shiv, which will really help him get the CS that he needs to maybe slingshot it ahead to an infinity edge, which is where UZI is just going straight up right off the bat.
Sorry for that. Really quick, little bit of technical issues.
Fine. It's working out. So really nothing too eventful. But just like we were talking about the teleport disadvantage that Cola had previously when Khan TP'd bottom, now it's kind of the reverse situation, whereas Cola has his TP up, but Khan's is unfortunately down. So the TP from Khan wasn't enough of an impact to get World Elite Academy the Dragon. So let's see if Cola's is a little bit more impactful and can be used to secure that objective.
We see itemization coming out, and UZI, both teams are going for, I guess, the Infinity Edge. We see the pickaxe was the first buy for the 80 carries. UZI is going for the straight damage with the pickaxe and the BF sword. And SMLZ, it looks like, is going for the early strat Shiv Rush, which we've actually seen a lot on Tristanis. Not so much in LPL, but internationally in general.
That is true. And I guess it's just, you know, it's Shiv plus explosive shot. Oh, but SMLZ face checks into the bush right into Zero, but he's got a bodyguard minion that stops the death sentence. So Zero going to be a sad boy after that one, but does have a lot of CC to throw back onto UJ. Takes a little bit of that, but oh, back in the mid lane, we got the fish down on a Mickey God. Playful, trickster, auto attack, and Mickey's got the damage. Oh, and more than enough follow-up coming in from behind. Insect, Cola, they're right there when it counts. Corn is gonna get engaged on though. Khan, the dodge of the explosive Kaz. Corn able to outplay Khan right there. Bottom lane, SMLZ is gonna go down. It's a 2v1 now onto UJ. Zero's got the death sentence. No. UJ still wants to go in because he thinks he's got help coming down from behind, but really it's just Khan, the only other member of his team left alive. StarHorn, off of a huge engaged mid, will take down Dragon #1.
And this is just some really quick, smart, mechanical, reactive outplays. They know that Dragon is in contention now. They know that if they make the correct moves, then they'll be able to go for it. They immediately jump on mid lane. We saw Corn outplay Khan trying to get something back for it. They immediately took the gank's bottom lane. So smart map movements, but also in general, a few of these plays still a bit risky, still very committing, but they do come out ahead, especially with the wards and the fact that they didn't clear out the vision beforehand. But the fact that they were able to get those picks, immediately transition to Dragon, put Star is the kind of StarHorn that we frequently see, and we see just the difference in experience. World Elite Academy has been playing a very reactive game, I'd say. StarHorn is playing a very proactive one.
And even, you know, proactiveness notwithstanding, World Elite Academy trying for the least sneaky gank of their life, sitting on top of ward. And the ward even expires, so if they scan for it right now, they won't be able to know that they've been scouted out because it's died. So you're going to see very safe play there from UCI and Zero. He doesn't do the Name thing where you just like randomly predict that the enemy is in a brush and throw a skill in there to check. So he'll let them stick around a little bit longer. But yeah, Dragon notwithstanding, the gold count is almost identical here, even without factoring in Dragon gold. And Korn himself is at 3-0 Lichbane, Nielsen Large Rod Fizz. That is going to hurt no matter who he goes on. And Mickey's 0-2, so big discrepancy there in that mid lane power. Could be coming into a greater effect, even if it's not reflected in a big objective like Dragon.
And like you said, the gold is very even, only the 200 gold difference at this point. But as we mentioned earlier, the gold is on the carries. We have 3 kills on Korn, 2 kills on UZI. Look at this replay real quick. We just see the teleport coming in for the extra assist and the ability to juggle more tower. StarHorn picking up that kill there.
Teleport down to the bottom lane though. Khan's coming in again. Doesn't land the body slam or the slow from the barrel, and he just leaves SMLZ out to dry. The culling coming down from behind, but it's not enough to reach. Insect's getting in there, and UZI wants the kill. He gets it onto SMLZ. Gonna find another one onto Khan. UZI, he's got 2 already. Zero Death Sentence trying to keep himself alive. Flay back off the dunk, and he will finally go down. Now Soist is not in a good spot. War jump in there right into the brush. He's gonna go down. Mickey is dead, and it's a 3 for 5. Or 2 for 5 rather. 3 alive for StarHorn Royal Club.
And when we talk about Chinese team fighting and good Chinese team fighting, that was a pretty good example from StarHorn Royal Club's side. They had the carries locked up on the side in the river for World Elite Academy, while UZI didn't even have to worry about needing protection or peel. He was just left alone to go to town on some of the other members of World Elite Academy, and that really led to the success in that fight. Just the ability to lock up, as we mentioned, with all of those lock-up abilities that... Or, excuse me, wrong team. The StarHorn Royal Club was just able to distract and separate from World Elite Academy, while UZI pretty much had his way with World Elite Academy.
Yeah, and it's not just UZI who's going to have his way now. Korn is 6-0-1 on a Fizz. This is what I expected to see last time he brought it out versus World Elite, but didn't get off to this good a start. You can see he's got, I think that's Magic Penetration. Oh, he actually only put 2 points in the Magic Penetration Mastery, whereas usually you see the full 6% off of all 3 points, which is kind of weird. I'm guessing he used that for extra percentage increase on ability power, but still kind of interesting. And like I said, 6-0-1. It's got Lichbane, Zhonya's Hourglass, pretty much everything you could hope for right now as a Fizz.
Yeah, those are definitely high priority Fizz items. Right now, there's almost no one who can deal with him at all, unless they manage to get a pick off of him almost like 5v5. I mean 5v1. So he's in a very good position. We talked a little bit about how he tries to play safe because of the overzealousness of the rest of his team. It seems like when his team is in a good spot and he has the attention focused on him from Insect, he's still able to have a successful game and get the kills and the gold he needs. So hopefully he can help his team close out.
That is the hope. As far as World Elite's hopes for closing out the game, they are somewhat slipping away. Was even about 5 minutes ago, and now there's a 4,000 gold lead for StarHorn, primarily off of just their carries, Korn and UZI. They're farming up a storm, but bottom lane we're gonna see UJ try to get out of this one. Glacial Fissure is just gonna get cold there, and Insect throwing out the Dragon's Rage to take out UJ. And the back lines, Mickey is in a little bit of trouble. Playful Trickster dash through with the Urchin Strike, and Korn now in a little bit of trouble. He's got backup coming his way, flash in for the stun. Cole is a little bit ahead of schedule there, as the rest of his team had already sounded the retreat, but StarHorn grabbed 2 kills, and we'll probably grab this bottom lane turret off of it. Leap in, leap out there for SMLZ, trying to dash away. Holy wow, Korn's got a lot of damage coming his way, and with the lantern as well, can't escape either. It does get exploded by Khan. So at least Khan comes in for a kill, but winds up trading his life for it. A 3-for-1 still in the favor of StarHorn Royal Club.
And that all started because World Elite Academy is trying to make plays, trying to not passively just let that game go. But the superior vision from StarHorn Royal Club meant that they engaged without knowing where the rest of the team was. And Insect was able to come down and just turn that engagement, and then a really smart teleport top allowed them to get more kills up there and going down. It was pretty funny. Khan just was really upset, didn't want Core to get out, throws the explosive cast knowing that the Playful Trickster is down. But that was the only kill that they were able to get off of that, which off of pretty much 2 separate engagements from their team. So things are not looking good for them right now.
Yeah, not looking good at all. And particularly, even though like Khan's been able to pick up kills early, and then more importantly there in that most recent fight, it's still just not going to be enough damage. I mean, even if Khan can complete his Rabadon's death cap, which is not necessarily the preferred sort of like pseudo tank Gragas, like a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, it was Frozen Heart Gragas. It was all about the tankiness, but now you see a lot more just full AP Gragases. Doesn't matter how much you nerf the guy, he's still got good ratios. So that's World Elite Academy looking to Khan for their damage, because really they're not going to get it from Mickey. They're not really going to get it from 1-3 Tristana. An attempted ganking Khan here, and he's going to body slam his way over the wall. He's trying for both sides of the wall, but it's still just not enough. Finally does wind up getting picked, going down, and okay, Insect's a little bit out there. StarHorn Royal Club back up for what could be a Baron attempt. They're going to pink it and wait around the corner of the wall. Oh, sneaky StarHorn. Who's going to be the one to face check this? World Elite Academy not looking for it, but the death sentence lands just piling on them. Last Breath's going to try for a turnaround, but Mickey just goes down immediately. The culling from behind as UZI tries for the follow-up, and Insect, gets blown away, but he stays alive there. Gets the dangerous game for a little bit of extra HP, and a perfect 5-for-0 StarHorn Royal Club sounding the horn, and now moving on to Baron Nashor. Beautiful team fight for Royal.
And World Elite Academy, as we said before, StarHorn Royal Club is just able to abuse the lack of vision that World Elite Academy has. World Elite Academy there tried to get some wards in, tried to get some vision, but it ultimately backfired on them. When that happens, you're kind of worried about what you can do to come back, but at the same time, they should have known StarHorn Royal Club might be there, considering they just had engaged upon Cola.
Now, theoretically, World Elite Academy do have a big wombo combo team comp, and they did get off a really nice engage off of a 1 or 2 man knockup. But if you just look at the damage difference between both teams, like UZI's culling there and Cola's just burst you down frontline damage it's just way too ridiculous right now. The last breath from Yasuo didn't really accomplish a whole lot other than some momentary CC, because he's primarily built attack speed as a stat, which doesn't really work well off of your skills doing damage, unless you're talking about the cooldown on, what is that? It's, I forgot the name, but it's a Q that scales with attack speed. So, doesn't work with his ult, so the damage just really lacking there, and Khan, you can see, still with no death cap. Not a lot of damage to come out of really anyone from World Elite Academy yet.
Yeah, and you pretty much nailed it. That huge gold lead is now 12K. It's pretty massive and difficult to overcome right now. World Elite Academy actually had a very nice engagement but the item and goal differential is just way too much for them to get anything off of it. And StarHorn Royal Club, with the element of surprise and with the higher scaling items that they have right now, we're able to just perfectly ace them, even with the last breath getting on multiple targets.
A nice dark passage there to get Fizz out of things safely. This is like such a super good team comp for Fizz because you also have Thresh. Teams used to run Kassadin Thresh when Kassadin wasn't permaban, just so you could just YOLO straight into the middle of the enemy team and then take the Lantern back out again. So you can still do the same thing with Fizz, just play super aggressive, get in there. Insect's gonna ward jump, he's trying in the middle of the enemy team, does so, and an immediate explosion of damage as Korn gets in there. UJ is right in the middle of 5 there. The fish on SMLZ eats him alive, and there's some chum the waters if I ever saw it. Zonya's Hourglass just for fun, and StarHorn Royal Club crush through the team, and we'll make it into the base. This should be inhibitors, if not just a surrender vote here. Korn very low, but still alive. 5-4-0 exchange.
And that was just, again, a very good landing of skill shots in succession. We had Insect getting on to a member to start off the fight. We had Zero with a very good hook onto UJ, and it just spiraled out of... And Korn with the Chum the Waters just spiraled out of control from there, and StarHorn took a very, very clean game, first game in that set.
And that is going to do it for our first set in this best of 2. So 1 point already here for StarHorn Royal Club. And like we said, if we go ahead and switch things over very quickly to the standings, you can see that if StarHorn actually win their next game, it will catapult them to second place, a spot that they will at least hold for all of today before the rest of the teams get a chance to bring things back. So 1 game in the basket. StarHorn Royal Club look to grab game number 2 and advance to second place. We'll have that second game in this best of 2 series coming your way in just a minute. So stick around, be about 10 minutes, and we'll be back for game number 2 between StarHorn Royal Club and World Elite Academy here for the English coverage, the LPL, live on Twitch TV.
那一波就让皇族基本中野就奠定了优势，然后下路那一波就是让皇族整场就奠定了胜势。所以说，其实 WEA 如果能稳稳的把握住机会，感觉他们还是能和皇族一战。看一下这边
一个回放，
团战的一个回放，这边就是关键性的那一波。
对，
这里感觉
我们看这边
到这个点
就
不应该追
了。我们看这边小炮一直在 A 小兵，但是卢锡安的2个技能。 就一直让小炮打成在 E 加治疗继续追，2发平 A 直接带走。
在垂直闪现之后，这个点就应该是去转头打。
A lot of questions coming in here to the end of the season. I think there's only 1 more week after this, and it's only 4 series. So we're coming into the final stretch, and there is not a lot of time left to make up these points. Young Glory, they're kicking it into high gear. But our second series of the evening is actually going to be OMG versus LGD, kind of the top versus the middle of the pack. Is there anything that you think LGD, anything about LGD that might mean that they can overtake OMG, who are currently leading in the standings?
Well, OMG looked really amazing last week. Yeah, they did face World Elite, but they sort of sent World Elite on their downward spiral there. They had really, really smart strategical play. Drug made a point of going top lane and ganking the teleport, which is something that we don't often see a lot of in LPL. It seems like a straightforward strategy and a no-brainer to gank the teleport so he can't interrupt your other ganks, but this is something that OMG has started to do. In addition, they abused World Elite's dependency on Baron in the late game. World Elite tends to go for those Barons instead of closing out games. Not that World Elite was ahead by any means, but they went and...
Alright, it fortunately appears as if the wonderful Kelsey Moser is no longer with me, or maybe just things cut out there for a second. But, are you back?
Yeah, so as I was saying, OMG was able to abuse World Elite's Baron dependency, and instead of going for the Baron and engaging that fight, they wrapped around to move and push for the win and caught World Elite out and to end the game, which It's hard to imagine, but this was the only were no Barons taken the entire OMG versus World Elite set, and that never happens in LPL.
Exactly. Yeah, Baron is sort of like the fourth inhibitor. You got to take it down before you end the game. Showing us some stats up there for the kill rankings. The only StarHorn player on the kill rankings is just so happens to be in first place. UZI up there at the top of the standings. Now we actually have death rankings up there, and something tells me, yeah, there's two members of SHRC on there. So you can see Korn way up there in second place with 41. So definitely getting his contribution in, but not quite in the category he was looking for.
Yeah, Korn actually has died very infrequently compared to the other members of, and that's actually the least deaths ranking.
Right,
so
it's backwards.
Right. So he's died very little compared to the rest of the team, and I think that's indicative of the way StarHorn Royal Club plays. A lot, UZI and Insect tend to be very over-aggressive, tend to go in very hard, and Korn kind of stays back and is almost cautious, afraid to overcommit to some of these engagements, and they rely on Zero to reset some of these engagements and win.
And like you mentioned, only win of the week. Speaking of other teams who only had, I think it was one win last week. World Elite Academy are playing here for probably the chance to have a better week than their main team. I don't know. It's not that hard to eclipse a team that had a week like World Elite did last week. So it's been a rough week for the top few teams in LPL. And if I hate to use the phrase, if Young Glory can do it, then anyone can. But might be the week for World Elite to try to climb their way back up the standings as well.
Yeah, and it's physically impossible for any team to do as bad as World Elite for the rest of the split, unfortunately, since this was the only time where a team played 3 sets, and they lost 5 of the games, so that's a little rough.
The struggle, and it's probably just going to continue, because with those, as losing as many games as they did, if we can switch over here to the standings really quickly, you can see that World Elite actually, they didn't go negative at 80 points, but they stalled out at 12 points, lost their second place spot to EDG, and that means that with World Elite only at 12 points, StarHorn, if they win this series 2-0, will eclipse World Elite in the top 3 teams of LPL, which is probably not a place very many members thought StarHorn would be, especially with the season World Elite was having. Like, they were 75% win ratio like 3 weeks ago, and now they are, not after last week.
I think those standings might actually be outdated, because right now World Elite has 17
points. That is true. Let me make sure that these are actually updated really quickly. And there we go. Should actually be updated right now. So the same thing is still true. If StarHorn wins right now, they'll go from 15 to 18 points and will steal that 3rd place spot away from World Elite.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. Also, Edward Gaming is tied at 17 points, so that's a 2nd place over World Elite and Edward Gaming. 2 teams that had very rough weeks. Like we talked about, World Elite had a rough week. Edward Gaming had 2 sets, and they only won 1 game as well. So they won 1 of 4 games. And both teams gave Young Glory their first 2-0 victories, so that was pretty significant.
Exactly. Yeah, as great as it is to talk about, the top teams losing, this is made possible in part by viewers like you and by Young Glory, a team that went from 3 points to 9 points over 2 best-of-2 series versus the best teams in LPL. Now, they'd split 1-1 versus OMG the week before, so I'm just going to include that in their stats just to make them look a little bit better. But it's pretty incredible to watch Young Glory rise up and the top teams start to falter here, and that brings a lot.
而正因为 YG 的爆发，老干爹战队现在也可能会面临可能会掉级的危险了。可以说联赛打到现在，我们的局势也是越来越紧张了。最后的3周，到底最后的结果怎么样呢？我们把谜底交给所有的选手了。那么接下来一起来关注一下今天有哪些好看的比赛吧。好，首先16点到18点由皇族对阵 WEA， 那么19点到21点呢是由 OIC。
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the LPL broadcast here in English on Twitch TV. My name is Rapid, and I'll be joined by our special guest tonight, LPL analyst Karen Moser. Now, we're going to be hopping into our first series of the night here. Coming up in just a minute, it's going to be World Elite Academy. They'll be taking on StarHorn Royal Club. So take us into that match. What are we expecting to see from these two teams tonight, Karen?
Thanks, Rapid. So, first of all, World Elite Academy and StarHorn Royal Club have both had very interesting ups and downs recently. It seems like they're two teams that have very similar problems. They have very aggressive laning phases, but when they get leads, they sometimes struggle to close out games. We saw World Elite abuse this against StarHorn Royal Club last week to get their only win out of 6 games when they used a hyperscaling comp with Jax, AP Kog'Maw, and Tristana to close out against StarHorn Royal Club when they had a lead.